Hey everybody, this is David here, aka Chessman. Today we're going to be going over the World Championship match that happened in 2016 between Magnus Carlsen and Sergey Karjakin. Um, basically, I'm doing a series on like seeing what openings the best players in the world use. So I've decided to go through the World Championship matches and see what openings they played. Since they're the best in the world, that's one definitely good. It could be a good method in figuring out how to choose what openings we study. So I hope you brought your notebooks back or your word process, whatever thing you have on your computer, your notepad, and hope you're ready to take some notes. And yeah, let's begin. If you haven't seen my videos before, I'm using the website 365chess.com. There's a lot of great tools on there. There's an opening explorer. There are courses, free. There's courses you can buy, but there's free ones as well about the openings. Um, there you can train, and you can search tournaments down here, and you can look up players' games, players by their rating, women players, players by number of games, players by their letter. I usually do players by rating because I like to look at the best players in the world. So let's get started. So again, the match was played in 2016 in New York City, and if you don't know this already, Magnus Carlsen did win the match in tie breaks. They had 12 classical games, and it ended up being a draw, 6 points to 6 points. And then they played 4 rapid games to settle the match. And the first 2 games were draws, and the last 2 games Magnus Carlsen won, and that's how he retained his title. So if you haven't seen this website before, there's this feature here, like there's the result, which round, the date they were played, and then the opening. And you can click on it and it shows you the opening that was used. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're not going to spend too much time in each game since there were a total of 16 games we're covering. So we're going to go pretty quick. All right, so the first game, they played an A45 Queen's Pawn game. You're going to want to write that down. And then the moves were D4 Knight F6. Just in case you're not taking notes and you're learning by observing, I'm going to play the moves. D4 Knight F6. You can rewatch that if you want. Not too complicated. And if you come to this website, you can use this feature where they show you grandmasters that have played this opening, and you can look up their games and see what moves they made from this position. That's a great tool. They say you should look at grandmaster games, and I totally agree. All right, so that was A45 Queen's Pawn game. A second. Hopefully my internet's all right. Hang on a minute. Something's loading. Not sure what's wrong. Let me, I guess, oh, wait, maybe it's working now. Okay, there we go. Sorry for the pause, but I think it's working now. All right, so the first game was an A45 Queen's Pawn game. Let's see, hopefully there's no more problems. All right, the next opening is a C84 Roy Lopez closed defense. And it goes E4, E5, knight of 3, knight C6, bishop B5, A6, bishop A4, knight F6, castles kingside, and bishop E7. All right, that was the C84 Roy Lopez. There we go. Next, game 3 is a C67 Roy Lopez Berlin defense open variation. And it goes E4, E5, knight of 3, knight C6, bishop B5, knight of 6, castle kingside, knight takes E4. That's very popular, the Berlin defense. And that was the C67 Roy Lopez. Looks like we got a lot of Roy Lopez's in this tournament, in this match. Next is a C88 Roy Lopez closed. And it goes E4, E5, knight of 3, knight C6, bishop B5, A6, bishop A4, knight F6, castles kingside, bishop E7, rook E1, B5, and bishop B3. See, Vishy Anand has played this in at least 147 games, so it must be pretty good. He was world champion 5 times, I believe. 5-time world champion. Let's see. Next is the C50 King's Pawn game. I believe it's the Italian game. Yeah, so C50, it's the King's Pawn game, but it's also called the Italian game. So it's up to you how you write that down. I would put Italian game if I were you. And it goes E4, E5, knight of 3, knight C6, and bishop C4. And there's a whole guide to it right here. It tells you all the different variations, and it's pretty good. And it's free. Okay, so that was the C50 Italian game. Okay, it looks like we already covered this one. It's the C88 Roy Lopez closed. Yep, we've already covered this one, so you already have it down. So we're not going to stay on it too long. So here's a moment to see it again. And there we go. C88 Roy Lopez for the second time. Next is it says the D10 Slav defense. And it goes E4, D4, D5, C4, C6. That's the Slav defense. Next game is the D05 Queen's Pawn game. And it goes D4, D5, knight of 3, knight of 6, E3, and E6. That was the D05 Queen's Pawn game. Next one is the C78 Roy Lopez with move 5 kingside castles. And it goes E4, E5, knight of 3, knight C6, bishop B5, A6, bishop A4, knight F6, and kingside castles. That was played by Vishy Anand 233 times, and Mikhail Tal 173 times. So it's a very good opening. So that's a C78 Roy Lopez. And just seeing if we did this one already. We have not. Next is the C65 Roy Lopez Berlin Defense. We did get a Berlin before, but not this one. So it goes E4, E5, Knight of 3, Knight C6, Bishop B5, and Knight of 6. And this has been played a lot by Vishy Anand, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and Fabiano Caruana. So, and Levon Aronian, Kramnik as well. So this must be pretty darn good. Let's see. So C65 Roy Lopez Berlin Defense. All right, this next one we've covered already twice, I believe. It's the C84. Actually, maybe not. I can't remember if it was the C88 or the C84, but I know we covered the C84. But just in case, I'll go over it again. It's the Roy Lopez closed defense, and it goes E4, E5, Knight of 3, Knight C6, Bishop B5, A6, Bishop A4, Knight F6, Kingside Castles, and Bishop E7. C84 Roy Lopez. If you hadn't noticed, the Roy Lopez is pretty popular in the higher levels. And I noticed we've covered this one already. It's the 12th game it's the last game of the classical games. And it's the C67 Roy Lopez Berlin Defense Open Variation. We've already covered it, so I'm not going to go over it again. That was 12th game of the rapid games. And now we're going to cover, of the classical games, now we're going to cover the rapid games. And it looks like we got this one already. In game 1, it was, again, a C84 Roy Lopez closed defense. And we already have it down, so I'm not going to cover it. That was game 1, and game 1 was a draw. Looks like they're already familiar with that by the time we got to the rapid game. I believe we've covered this already, the C50. I believe it's the Italian game. Yep, we already got this. So C50 Italian game, E4, E5, Knight of 3, Knight C6, Bishop C4. If you come to this website, you can look at the entire guide. All right. And the third game, interestingly enough, we've already covered this a few times, but this time Carlsen won with the black pieces. And it was the C84 Roy Lopez closed defense. And we already have it down a few times, so I'm going to move on to the last game. Wow, we finally got a Sicilian. Carlsen won this last game with the white pieces. And it was the B54 Sicilian. And it went E4, C5, Knight of 3, D6. Come on. D4, C takes D4, Knight takes D4. And that's the B54 Sicilian. So again, that was all the games. And basically, just to show you, the way I got to this was I went to tournaments. I found out I looked on Wikipedia what year the World Championship matches were, so that's how I know the year. And this one was in 2016, so I clicked 2016. I went average ELO higher than 2,700, and then I searched chess tournaments. And then I looked for it, and I saw it right here, World Championship 2016. And then there was World Champion Rapid Tiebreaks 2016. And that's how I got it. And you can also, like I said, you can look up players. Like, for instance, I look up Magnus Carlsen quite often. Computer's a little slow today. Okay, there we go. And if you go players by ranking, it shows you in what order the players are. Hans Niemann is currently 22 in the world. Jan Nepomniachtchi is 23. You can look at Vishy Anand is still 13th, which is pretty darn good. Gukesh is 9th. Magnus is 1st. And you can click on him. This might come up, but just verifying that you're a human. And then it has a little brief discussion on Magnus Carlsen. And then it has his most recent tournaments. You can click on them, or you can just look at all his last games from the last game he's played, and just scroll down, and you can take a look. You can look at them. You can also, what I do a lot is when you click on the game, there's this download button, and you can download the PGN. So a lot of times I download the PGN and I upload it to chess.com's analysis board, and then I review it. So there's a lot of things you can do. But so 365chess.com, it's a great tool. It's free. They do ask that you make a donation, but it's free still. So I'd use it before it's not free anymore. Well, that was everything. So I'm going to keep covering the World Chess Championship matches. I went from their most recent, and I'm going back in time. So I believe the next one is 2014, Magnus versus Vishy Anand. So I'm going to cover that one in a few days. And yeah, should be fun. Can't wait. We now, by this time, you should have a lot of openings to study from all the previous World Championship matches I've covered, and it should give you a good foundation of what openings to study. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers at some point, hopefully by the end of this year. It's January, so 12 months. I think that's a reasonable goal. And if you have any advice or anything like that, just leave it in the comments. I'm still pretty new to this. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to come up with ideas for new chess content and not doing what someone else has already done. So I'm constantly looking up other YouTubers to see if it's been done or not. But anyways, I hope you enjoy, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.